Okay, we're going to talk about the manual milling machine today. This is just a general overview of all of the things so that you understand how this machine works. The X, Y, and Z axes on this machine are all controlled by handles. This is the Y. The Y is always going to be considered, it goes forward and back from where you're standing. So if I turn it, it's going away from me. We would consider that going back. Going forward toward me, okay? These are generally used by plus and minus. We'll teach you the plus and minus at another time. This controls the x-axis, okay? The x-axis always moves the table along the length of the longest part of the machine. So if we go this way, the table moves in this direction. If we go the other way, okay? So that's your x-axis handle right here. Your z-axis is something that goes straight up and down, okay? This handle controls that thing. This is called the quill, okay? So the quill moves up and down, and usually it's spinning when we're doing this. Over here, this is called a DRO, or a digital readout. And we use this to track where zeros are, so that when we move an amount that we need for a measurement, we know exactly how far to move. If I needed to move an inch, I would set a 0 on this, and I would move X to 1 inch, and I would know that's exactly 1 inch away from where I just was. Okay, so you'll learn how to use this a little bit more as you get introduced to it. Up here we have a low gear and a high gear changing handle, and it also has neutral in the middle. So if you're in low gear, which it says low and high on the switch, so if you're in low, you have to turn it to low in order to make it spin. Oh, actually they don't. They say 1 and 2, sorry. But low in gear and high is up here, and that tells you how fast the machine is going to be moving when you turn it on, okay? If you're in high gear, then this number would be how fast the machine will be moving when you turn it on, okay? So when you turn that switch, I'm going to do it right now. My selector is set to low. So this is low, and I'm going to turn this. And right now I know that I am running at approximately 320 RPM. Okay? But without changing speed, I just turn this selector to high gear. And now when I turn it on, it's running at 2,800 RPM. Okay, so that's how this switch works. And if it's in neutral, then I can turn this by hand very easily, and that's when I'm trying to do things on the machine, indicating things like that, where I want this to be loose. In high, it's kind of hard to move it. It just wants to fight me a little bit. It wants to go back and forth. And in low, it doesn't move at all. Generally, I use the low setting for tool changes. Okay, we're going to do that in a minute. Okay, this is called the quill stop right here. So normally when we're working with something, we want to be able to come down, do something to our part, drill it, mill it, whatever it is we're doing. So we come down, we set the depth. This locks the quill in place so it can't move now, and we do something to it, and then we want to be able to move our tool up out of the way. Okay, so we unlock it and it comes away, but even though it moved, I can still bring it right back down to the same spot that I was, because I have my quill set, okay? If you don't use your stop nut up here for your quill, then it's always just a different spot. So you want to get in the habit of always using the quill stop nut and setting it to the depth that you want it to be at. Adjusting the height of what we call the knee. This whole thing basically can go up and down. This whole table system can go up and down by spinning this handle right here. And there's a dial on here that has numbers 0 through 100. And that tells you how many thousandths you are moving every time you're turning this handle. So if I want to make this table further away from the top spindle here, I just turn this, and I don't know if you can see it, but the table is actually going lower, okay? Now if I wanted to get it closer, I go the other direction, and now the table is raising up and getting closer to the top. okay? So that's what the knee does. These locks right here, there's 3 of them, okay? These lock the table in the X and Y directional. This one will lock your Y axis. So if you lock this, this is hard to move, okay? And then if you lock these, then your X is hard to move. It doesn't want to move because it's locked in, okay? So that's what those do. And I would want to show you one more thing about the speed on this. You cannot change the speed of this machine unless the motor is running, okay? So if I put this on and I'm at 2,800 RPM and I want it to be slower than that, then I need to make sure my machine is turned on. This handle right here, the variable speed control handle, and I turn that, and now as I'm turning it, these numbers are getting smaller and the RPMs are going slower, okay? This has to be running in order to do this though, okay? Always make sure that you always turn the machine on to change speed. Now it's running very slow at 1,000 RPM, okay? And then I turn that off, and here's the brake to make sure that we stop that from spinning as soon as we're done with it. We don't want that spinning any longer than necessary. And this is going to be the in and out switch for making tool changes. It says in, so that would be when you want to put a tool in, and then out when you want to take that tool out. I'm going to show you how that works really quick here. I got to just grab something. I got to get this out of the way. Okay, so I'm going to make a tool change right now. I'm going to put a tool in, okay? Whenever we're going to change tools, it's important that emergency stop is pressed, okay? Because we're going to be putting our hands into a place that's very dangerous if it were to turn on. We have what's called here a keyway, okay? This keyway is got to be aligned up with something that's in here that's called a key, right? A keyway is where a key goes, okay? So we have to do is make sure that this is clean. So we always give this a wipe with our hand. We also take our finger and we put it into that spindle, which is why we want the emergency stop on, because we're putting our finger in a dangerous place, okay? And then we can also feel where the key is in here. There's a little piece of metal that you're going to feel sticking out. Well, you know that this slot has to line up with that key. I know that it's kind of in the back because I felt it in the back, so I turn my tool this way and I'm going to insert it, and then if I'm not lined up, it stops right here, and I just turn it a little bit. There it is. Now the key went into the keyway and it's ready. I push this as far as I can. So all the way up, I'm going to press the in button, okay? And that's how I'm going to make a tool change. The last thing you need to know is this wants to be in low. If you look up there, you can see where it says speed range, high, neutral, and low. We want this to be in low when you make a tool change, okay? That will prevent the spindle from spinning and possibly cutting your hand when you're making a tool change. And as soon as you hear it make that clicking sound at the top, you know that that's completely tightened. You don't have to go any further than that. But make sure you hold it until you get that clicking sound, okay? So this now is in there and it's all set. Now let's pretend that I've finished doing something with this tool and I want to now remove that tool from the spindle. Same thing, I'm making sure the stop has been pressed, making sure I'm in the low range, and I'm going to put my hand underneath the tool, okay? Now this is not a sharp tool, so on some tools you want to definitely have a rag in your hand so that it can't cut you. This has no sharp things on it, so I can just take it out, and I'm going to press the out button on the power drawbar, and it wants to give me a hard time, of course, but there it is. Sometimes the quill will push down a little bit. Press the lock, that will hold the quill in place. The tool comes right out and it's ready for either the next tool or for me to just put this away because I'm all done using the machine. Okay, so that's the basic overview of the manual milling machine. If you have any questions or need any help with anything, please see any of your instructors out in the shop, and we'll see you out on the floor.